From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight,
Ijoma Oyato.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, President Jonathan and almost over 100 world leaders attend Nelson Mandela's state funeral in Pretoria. US President Barack Obama calls Mandela a giant of history as President Jacob Zuma renames Union Building Mandela House. Students resume in some universities with academic work yet to take off as directed by the federal government. And 2 French soldiers killed in combat in the Central African Republic.
And in business news, Nigeria's budget office claims implementation of yearly appropriation bill reaches 73%.
On sports news tonight, 30 home-based Super Eagles train as Nigeria kickstarts preparations for the 2014 African Nations Championship.
I'm Gloria Umezuke, and from Abuja, activists seek end to rights abuses as the world marks Human Rights Day.
Says she inherited a run-down aviation sector. The minister told the Senate panel investigating recent plane crashes in the country that the aviation sector was unmanned and riddled with obsolete safety and security equipment when she took over. Apart from the minister, top officials of the ministry were also questioned by the Senate panel.
To assemble vehicles.
After several adjournments, the Minister of Aviation, Mrs. Stella Odua, appears before the Senate Committee on Aviation. This investigative hearing was called by the Senate after the Associated Airline plane crash to unravel the cause of the several air crashes and air-related incidences in the past few years. It is also to examine the state of the country's aviation sector. The minister, while detailing the state of the sector, spoke of the challenges she inherited when she became minister. But the Senate leader wanted more answers.
The most horrifying things we found were, number one, the safety and the security critical equipment and its installations were mostly in obsolete condition. Most of them were unserviceable, and in some cases were unavailable. Also, we met completely decayed infrastructure at all the airports, and the dilapidated nature was just horrible.
We want to know when was the aircraft purchased. We want to know when was the last sea check done. We want to know who authorized aircrafts to fly.
Lawmakers then directed questions to officials of the different aviation parastatals.
By NCAA rules and regulations, how old, what is the maximum age of a pilot? Because me, yes, because me, if I know a pilot is 64 years old, I will abort my flight.
The pilot in command was 64. It is also true that by law, pilots are allowed to fly to the age of 65.
I think there is some history to whoever it was that certified that aircraft. I want you to answer to that question.
As to who actually released the aircraft, yes, the person is alive. As we said, it's a shared responsibility. We have been interviewing all the people that came in contact with that particular flight, whether directly or even indirectly. Not only the engineer, all the service providers, the regulatory agency, and so on, and it will come out in the final report.
The investigation is expected to continue at a later date, but what many Nigerians are concerned about is how far-reaching the recommendations from the investigations would be to make the aviation sector safer. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
If you are a parent, guardian of a student in any of the state-owned universities in Nigeria, then you may have something to worry about. Well, this is because it doesn't appear lecturers are yielding to the threat of a federal government asking them to resume work or get sacked. Well, in most of the universities visited by Channels Television across the nation, well, students are turning up but lecturers are not available to teach, and some of the teachers are threatening to continue with the strike action.
It has been several months of waiting on who will blink first in the university lecturers' federal government face-off. When the federal government shifted its deadline from the 4th to the 9th of December and sounded a warning of whoever fails to work will be sacked, it was thought that the lecturers would succumb to the threat.
For academic staff, empty threats. We are not aware of any deadline. That deadline is meant for Wiki, not for ASU.
24 hours after the federal government's deadline, most universities are still deserted. Classrooms under lock and keys, and even at the students' hostels, there's still no sign of academic activities. From the University of Benin to Bayero University, Kano, University of Ibadan to the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, no academic activity in sight. At the University of Abeokuta in Ogun State, the cleaners appear to be doing their own beat, but the lecturers appear not to be ready. It looks like the rumor of school resuming misled some of the students.
We have a directive from the federal government of Nigeria to reopen, and in obedience, we have reopened.
When I went to the departmental office, those there where the administration staff was there, but the lecturers handling the courses, they are not there, because we're supposed to have revisions before the exams, but the lecturers are not around.
I came and there's nothing going on in the school, so I don't know what to do.
In the University of Lagos, the camp of ASU appears to be divided, as the leadership insists it won't be cowed into resuming. Some other lecturers say they will resume lectures.
These threats have really remobilized our members more than ever before. Even people that were strike weary, and this thing has given them some form of motivation. And we had a congress today, and the resolution was that we must continue this strike.
We have not shut down the university. Many students are in the hostel, but we have not been teaching. But in this department, we will start teaching our foundation students on Thursday.
The hearts of the lecturers are still heavy, as some of them mourn their former leader Festus Iyayi, who was killed in a car crash. In the midst of the mourning, what is the stance of the lecturers?
In this struggle, we are deeply committed, and we make sure that we pursue this struggle to a logical conclusion.
As the tug of war between the federal government and the lecturers continues, it appears the heat of the battle has become unbearable for the students.
I want to make it known to both FG and HASU that Nigerian students have exhausted our patience and we are tired of staying at home. As the non-stop ASU strike is affecting our life and future negatively.
It has been a long-drawn contest and looking so much like the survivor of the fittest. The students are eager to resume, but when they do, will they teach themselves? Perhaps it's time for the parties to shift ground if they consider the interest of the students important. Sheung Okimale reporting for Channels Television News.
As part of activities to mark this year's World Human Rights Day, the Lagos State government has pledged total commitment to protecting the rights of all the residents in the state, including the rights of the disabled. To this end, the Attorney General of the state, Mr. Adeyekpaye, says the state is redesigning all its public buildings to accommodate the needs of specially challenged persons in the state. Our judiciary correspondent Shola Shoyele reports.
The issue of special people is one that has been on the front burner in recent times, and that's because they've gone beyond being mere statistics. If there is an issue that all of us as Nigerians are unanimous about, it's the fact that our special people require consideration. In Nigeria, more than 19 million people living with disability have suffered one form of deprivation or the other. And it's for this reason and more that the Lagos State government, with a population of over 18 million people, joined in the celebration of the UN Human Rights Day 2013, which had the theme, Rights of People Living with Disabilities.
We are reviewing our design of public infrastructure now, so that when we build roads, we make provision for walkways. And these walkways are also supposed to enable people using the wheelchair to move freely.
But it's not entirely the business of government. Other speakers called for the involvement of all persons.
As individuals, if we have any people around us like that, we must do something in terms of not only extending love and not pittance or anything, but make them feel that they are part of the group.
To inculcate the idea of human rights, the role of government and its citizens in the youth, the Lagos State government organized an essay and debate competition among public and private school students across the state and gave out prizes to deserving winners. Shola Shoyele, Channels Television News.
Well, Nigerians may have joined the rest of the world to mark the World Human Rights Day, but rights activists say the country has nothing to celebrate. For them, people are still confronted with human rights abuses on a daily basis owing to the government's unpopular policies. Our correspondent, Loretta Chogo, tells us the story of a man who was sacked 13 years ago for leading his colleagues in a struggle over labor issues.
Stepping out from where human rights activists gathered takes Mr. Ayodele Akele down memory lane. He recounts the struggle he led over labor minimum wage. That struggle led to his sack from the Lagos State Civil Service 13 years ago under the military regime of General Buba Marwa. And when the civil rule birthed in 1999 with the emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the governor of Lagos State, Akele was reinstated. 2 years after his recall, he got fired again. This time by the civilian government that gave him back his source of livelihood.
Which were just demanding for 7,500 minimum wage. And the NLC gave us that mandate. The workers of Lagos State ratified it. And I was pursuing the mandate of 7,500. But the governor then felt I am being difficult unnecessarily. And he told me to my face, he's going to sack me. And I said, well, it's just an abuse of power. I was being victimized for leading the workers of Lagos State.
For him and some other rights activists, the recognition of December the 10th by the UN General Assembly as Human Rights Day in 1950 is yet to yield the desired result, as issues of victimization, rape, unpopular government and workplace policies, amongst other abuses, continue to thrive.
I'm saying that everybody must buy a stake in the Nigerian state. And by buying a stake in the Nigerian state is by knowing what is going on at all levels of governance and be ready to challenge, to ask questions.
We don't want to give an impression of people thinking or assuming that if you stand up to fight for what is right and you end up getting victimized along the way, then you get to carry your cross and burden yourself. And that's why we say, no, this should actually be addressed.
With the terror attacks in northern Nigeria, kidnappings, ritual killings, and extreme poverty and unemployment, achieving the absolute meaning of human rights for its citizens lies solely on the people-oriented actions of the governments of the day. Loretta Chogo, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, the world pays tribute to Nelson Mandela in Pretoria. That's in a moment. Do join us again.